When last we left our heroes, Danir the Catman Wizard, Wolfgang the Angelic Warlock, and Nara the Drow Sorceress had suffered the cruel loss of Asmo due to the machinations of Solomon. His deadly ritual to combine the Vorpal Blade along with Nara's Tango Muerte into the god-slaying weapon Death's Embrace, all in an effort to allow Solomon to finally cross into the realm of death. With great frustration and heavy heart, Nara, now wielding Death's Embrace, forced Solomon to submit to the pleas of the Kylum Diaboli and King Bahum. With a caravan of drow and undead, the party made their way to the bottom of the maw to find the old, gnarled, white-barked tree that had held the body of Asmodeus for over 1,000 years. To their horror, they found it had been emptied by a series of tiny creatures and carried off to parts unknown. Their trouble had only begun, however, as a horrific howl and eerie green glow permeated the distant cusp of the maw high above them. Wolfgang and Danir, on the back of the golden dragon Bahum, flew up to discover the aftermath of a distant and powerful explosion. Surveying the area, they discovered only burn and death, including the body of Elliot Connolly. Using every ounce of his power, Wolfgang tried to force open the gates of death, damaging its veil in the process, but Elliot's soul remained out of reach. Seeing a new avenue to achieve his goals, Solomon agreed to bring back Elliot in return for the death he craved. With so many cruel words and the life of Elliot in his very hands, Nara sliced the head off of the pompous manipulator. With a shudder of wild emotions, Death's Embrace shattered back into pieces, leaving our heroes with few options but to return to Dragon's Rest, along with Elliot and the rescued head of the Archmage, Jimothy Blacklord. So as you pass through the teleportation circle, you find yourself once again in that cramped closet, this time with a couple other bodies joining you. The space itself seems to have been cleared out a bit after Abigail learned that it happened to be a space that could be used to transport you guys from afar. But it's still very cramped as you land in, and Wolfgang and Elliot are both very much in need of carrying at the moment. Where is my sounds for this? My ambiance folders have all been shuffled for some reason.
Uh-oh.
This one will do. A little loud. There we go. As you teleport in, Abigail is standing there along with a few city guards in Kylum Diaboli attire, and they all kind of usher you, especially Elliot and Wolfgang, who look to be the most injured at the moment, and are extremely shocked to notice that in your company is King Bahum. They kind of pause for a moment before the king just kind of gives them a nod towards both you and Elliot, and you guys are both carried off to be healed properly. Feels odd to be home.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll have a few moments to enjoy it before we make our next move.
I suppose that still needs to be figured out. The sound of the, you managed to make it back. You're kind of in the middle of the day, so the halls are actually still kind of lively with the young sorcerers, who've especially gathered around to see what the commotion is about. You can kind of see like this crowd by the opening of Abigail's door as a bunch of very curious eyes are trying to like peek in and see what's going on. They parted to make way for Wolfgang and Elliot and the guards.
Denier glances towards Abigail. I managed to set up a mental barrier around the school. It'll at least give them a chance. Has anybody else turned since I've left?
Since you left... Since you last... Whatever you did, there haven't been any nightmares.
Denier gives a couple nods. Good. I don't know if me being around ran them off, but like I said, I set up a mental barrier to try to protect them while they're sleeping.
Denier, give me a perception check.
Okie doke. As soon as my character sheet opens up, Perception. That is a 23.
Of all of the children kind of standing in the door, one little boy, probably about maybe 10 years old, his eyes have not shifted off of you specifically. Many of the other kids are, you know, kind of like whispering to each other, especially like pointing towards King Bahoom and kind of like gossiping, but this kid has just been kind of like staring slack-jawed at you.
Is this the boy that I fought Ramses over?
No, this is a different boy.
Hmm. I'll slowly turn and glance towards him.
Actually, no, yes, it is the same boy. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Bleh.
I'll slowly turn, look towards him. Though the face is hidden behind a mask, I look towards him and I give him a thumbs up.
Once he sees that you're looking at him, he kind of like looks away and kind of starts wandering down the hall.
Look back towards Abigail. Hopefully they'll be okay for at least a while. I don't know how long it's going to hold, but as long as I'm still here, I'm going to try to keep it available. And he's going to look at Nara and see how she's doing.
Nara has been staring wide-eyed and angry and body tense. She's just been kind of following wherever you guys go, just walks behind. But like whole body just rock solid tense.
If there's anything you need to talk about, Nara, just... You know I'm always here for you.
Her eyebrows kind of like drift up a little bit, like that she heard you, but she's not engaging, kind of like she doesn't know how right now.
Denier gives a little bit of a nod, an almost sage-like nod, knowing, yeah, I've been there. And he's going to follow slowly after Wolfgang and make sure that he and Elliot are okay.
All right. King Bahoom also excuses himself to go basically try to make his way to those in power so that they know that he's safe. Although word is very much spreading quickly. You kind of even hear that as you're leaving the grounds, some of the guards talking from the people that went by carrying Wolfgang and Elliot that, you know, the king's here, the king's back. You find Elliot and Wolfgang. Oh, by the way, with that perception check, I'm just going to let it roll. That kid kept kind of like from around corners watching you as you left.
All right.
You find Wolfgang and Elliot as they were brought to a Church of Light, currently being overseen by a couple of the clerics there, as well as Pogan. They're just being treated for their wounds. Elliot's are, while he's alive, the burns on his flesh, there's a lot of, like, necrotic wounds all over him that they are desperately trying to mend. And since Pogan's there, they have a pretty good idea of what caused this. Wolfgang, you are... both of you are brought back to proper consciousness. And Denier, Nara as well, if you have decided to stick around, have been allotted to basically see them in the treatment room that they're in.
Yeah, she's just like non-responsive shadowing people, like behind, following, you know, wherever Denier goes.
Wolfgang's been bandaged up. Elliot's body is like, he almost looks like a mummy with how many bandages are on him. They had to Wolfgang, you actually probably would have woken up a little during this process, but they had to remove a lot of his burned cancerous flesh and then remend it.
Wolfgang, upon awaking, would probably, if they're in the same room while Elliot's being operated on, he probably would have just kept his attention squarely on his son.
As you faded in and out of consciousness, they were doing everything in their power to make sure that he was stabilized, and they were able to stabilize him. He's in no fear of immediate death, and is actually able to hold consciousness, even if his body is still kind of in raking, agonizing pain. He actually kind of turns his head just before Denier and Nara are told that they can come in. So how'd your mission go?
Well, I'd say we succeeded, technically.
He kind of just gives a somber, knowing nod, as much as his head's kind of able to do so. Same, I suppose.
You'll have to tell me about it when you're better.
And with that, Denier, you're able to enter should you decide to.
I'll give them a few minutes so that they can. If I hear them talking to each other, I'll give them a couple minutes before I knock and enter.
There was something. Oh.
In following Denier, does Nara see that kid watching him?
Your passive perception would have been enough to do so.
Okay. How does he seem, like, intent-wise?
Nervous with a side of starstruck, with but there's like some, I guess, give me an insight.
Okay.
He's not very good at hiding his feelings, but
fucking 8.
while he's not very good at hiding his feelings, your own emotions are kind of like running amok in you right now. So you're still kind of having a hard time reading his exact thoughts and feelings, but there's something more to it, some kind of nervous eagerness to him.
But seemingly positive.
You think?
Okay. Good to know.
He doesn't seem to have any malicious intent, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
Yeah, that kid's not going to pull out a knife and stab Denier.
Okay.
Yet. There was something odd about him. The demons.
What do you mean?
Before, they all seemed so organized, so together. When we infiltrated, they were arguing about something. They were conflicted about what voice to listen to.
He sort of squints and he tilts his head to the side.
I don't know what it means, but it was a good distraction. It let us get further in than I expected without bloodshed, but it fell apart pretty quickly.
You don't need to tell me any more than that, son. Regain your strength. Rest.
I still gotta put it all together, I suppose.
Right now, you gotta put yourself together.
Right. I'll see you in the morning, then.
Yeah.
He kind of passes out. His body starts to give off this kind of soft light glow as the radiant energy within him begins to kind of mend his wounds.
If his hand isn't horribly scarred and burnt and bandaged, he'll probably just rest his own on top of it.
It's bandaged, but like his hands didn't seem to be the worst of it.
Yeah, he'd probably just be there holding his hand until Denier knocked on the door. Come in.
Denier would walk in slowly, bringing Nora along with him. Well, how you feeling, Wolfgang?
Like I swallowed a bunch of coals.
We were going to lose you two there for a second.
Yeah, Wolfgang, by the way, you kind of have not been able to stop sweating. You feel very warm.
Yeah, Wolfgang, as he raises his head up and turns his head to look at the other two, his eyes have changed color. As he looks to Denier and Nara, they'll notice that he's still got sort of a vibrant yellow ring around his pupil, but coming in from the edges is sort of an emerald green color.
Nara squints at him. Like, what is that?
You can give me a medicine check, I suppose.
Natural 1, 3.
Not your expertise and not something that you're familiar with.
Well, too many emotions. Confused, but cannot. No brain. Too angry.
What?
We both did. Was it just Nara, or did we both notice that?
If he's not doing anything really to hide it, so you'd be able to see kind of that greenish glow as well. Furthermore, the light around his iris is also kind of pulsing a bit.
Your eyes.
He sort of raises an eyebrow, and tilts his head.
There's something's going on with your eyes, man. And I'll minor image a picture of one of Wolfgang's eyes so that he can see exactly what it is.
He like squints and leans in. He'll like he'll flex his hand weakly and summon Crescendo, and like lay it flat and look at his reflection in the mirrored platinum edge.
As you summon Crescendo, make me a charisma saving throw.
A charisma saving throw. Okay. Gotta open my sheet for that.
Night night, wolf.
Here I go.
Oh,
Yep.
Hey,
Night
that's
night,
a natural
Wolfgang.
one.
Awesome. I get to roll on the good table.
uh-oh.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Fuck. Am I a wild mage now?
To an extent. Actually, this one's not so bad. As you summon Crescendo just fine, oddly enough. This one says you do the thing you wish to do. But at the same time, your eyes begin to flash, like your eyes flash all white, and these luminous wings sprout from your back. Your angel trigger has been summarily pulled.
Bang, bang.
Nara immediately turns around because way too much light.
Can I try to turn it back off? Like force it back off?
You don't seem to be able to. This power is coursing through you and is just trying to find its way out. Something inside of you is just not letting this stop.
I can't stop it. This is new.
Can Nara polymorph him into a frog?
You can try.
Doing it.
All right, Wolfgang, that is a wisdom saving throw, I believe. Or is that Constitution? One sec.
I think it's a wisdom...
Wisdom saving throw to avoid it.
Wisdom saving throw. Give me a wisdom save.
Okay. 25.
No frog for Wolfgang.
She does it again.
What are you...
Anything to make the light go away.
Wolfgang, try. Wolfgang, you're being demanded of frog.
You're trying to shirk. Get me to 13?
All right, now you are a tiny glowing frog with wings.
Ribbit.
And when the light goes down, she just kind of goes
He's
over
still
it and
quite
just,
bright.
like,
He looks like Navi.
just kind of like throws the blanket over top of him.
It's a little glowing blanket that's very frantically wriggling as these two wings start to beat.
Denier prestidigitations a small copy of Wolfgang's hat and puts it on top of the blanket. Before it vanishes about 10 seconds later.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Huh?
She doesn't even explain. She's just like, she's so done. You, like, Denier just sees Nara immediately cover her eyes and turn, like, angrily look, squinting back at where Wolfgang is and just, like, pointing her finger at him, getting pissed the first time and then angrily stiffening her arm and him turning into a frog.
It only lasts a minute, the Radiant Soul.
After a minute, the light of the frog dies down and the blanket seems to calm down a little as the wings disappear. Now it's just a regular frog under a blanket with a hat on it.
Nara just looks at Denier like, I'm done. You do whatever you're gonna do with Frog Gang.
Denier hands over his cloak just in case, Nara wants to cover her head with it. But
She takes it and puts it in front of her, also putting on the glasses too.
Denier picks up the hat, pulls the blanket back, puts the hat back on. Well, that was, picks up Frog Gang. That was an interesting little show you put on.
Frogging squints his eyes angrily.
I have a couple theories, but first things first, we need to make sure that you're not all glowy. So now that you're not glowy anymore,
Frogging rolls his eyes.
He's
Croaks
gonna
in
put
disdain.
Frog Gang back down, Dispel magic. 4th level.
And like that, you are now Wolfgang again.
Ribbit.
Denier picks up the teeny tiny little frog gang hat and puts it on top of Wolfgang's normal hat.
Hat on a hat.
Just closing his eyes, just sort of angry. He slowly opens them back up, and then he looks at Crescendo and checks his eyes.
Yeah, the light definitely pulsing, and there's there's a small green tinge to it, a familiar green tinge.
That is my old eye color. From before I had the pact sealed.
Once again, your eyes kind of like flicker with light a little bit, kind of in that uncontrolled sense, but nothing happens to you this time.
Did Wolfgang explain previously why he had the pact seal to the rest of the party? I know that he had conversations with the Fire Genasi, but I don't know if he explained it to the rest of the party.
It probably wouldn't have been something that he told the rest of the party, but he, yeah. It's not a story he would have gone into in depth.
Sounds like a plan. Interesting. Is there like any way that, if this is the eye color you had before the pact, is there any way that, you know, with the hole in the sun and all that, your pact is failing or becoming undone?
He just sort of slowly shakes his head. I don't know. This is entirely new. And this is the furthest I've ever pushed myself.
Nara puts the cloak down and drapes it over her arm and just stares at them.
Wolfgang looks up at Nara, a little pissed at first, but his gaze softens.
No emotion. Like, you were bright, it was annoying, it had to go.
I know that I don't have to tell you this, but try to take it easy a little bit with everything that's been happening to us the last couple weeks. I don't want to lose you too.
He sort of
too?
Wolfgang.
Okay.
He swallows a bit. He looks down. Yeah. I will.
The three of us got into this together. We're going to get out of this together, and we're going to fix all this.
Right.
Nara's brows knit together at that.
At least for the time being, I think we need to let everything kind of unwind just a little bit. We all need to recover a little bit from all the shit that's happened before we make our next move. No doubt Elliot's not going to be able to brief us for a while unless we debrief him now, but I don't want to do that, especially with everything that he's been going through.
His power is healing him, even now. I think we won't have to wait too long, but...
Yeah, it's pretty easy to see the soft glow of radiant energy coursing around Elliot. You do hear a commotion kind of coming through the temple, making its way to the back, and kind of storming through the door is Venariel. She takes notice of you, but her eyes kind of instantly lock to Elliot, who she then just kind of like runs over to, and careful not to like touch him, she just kind of like kneels down at his side. You damn idiot, what did you do?
He'll be okay, Venario. He just needs rest.
The minute Venario runs up to Elliot and starts talking to him, Nara leaves.
She kind of like kind of holds one hand over her swollen belly and sets another hand on like kind of just beneath just beneath his breast, slight like kind of on his rib cage. You better wake up because you have a lot of explaining to do.
Wolfgang sort of grins at that. If he's any son of mine, he will.
You can see tears kind of like trickling down the side of her face as she looks over her shoulder towards you. Then he will.
Of course he will. He's a Conley, after all.
Of course he is. What else would make him so damn reckless? Did your assignment go well?
We did succeed. But we've learned some troubling information. I think you can wait until everybody's healthy and ready to hear it.
Yes. Should be a full report as soon as you guys are back on your feet, she says, looking back towards Elliot. She just kind of starts speaking in Elven in kind of like hushed tones, almost a kind of prayer, it seems. Nara, is there anywhere particular that you would have headed off to?
Is that little kid still nearby?
He wouldn't have left the school grounds.
Okay. Probably just gonna kind of wander aimlessly, honestly. Just to be anywhere but where that was happening.
All right. Trying to see if there's anyone in particular you would run into. Let me go to that table. Fortunately, there aren't a lot of people alive that you'd know.
So we're in Dragon's Rest, yeah?
Yes.
How close are we to where, like, Pigs was? The meat house? And Asmo's old apartment?
You could
Or
find
the
your way there.
Rubble of it.
Yeah, the city itself has not held up incredibly well. I mean, most of the citizenry moved into the dwarven quarter of Guildhammer some time ago. most of this area is military by nature, but you find your way to the old town square promenade area. Still seems fairly bombed out, kind of broken up. A lot of the pieces of buildings were used to construct other areas. The old meat house is kind of ramshackled. And nobody's really here. You kind of find yourself with a bit of solitude.
And Asmo's apartment was above or beside it, right?
It was I think it was called the Phoenix Perch. Yeah, it was just kind of across the courtyard from the meat house.
She'll just kind of wander, because that's the only area I think she'd really know of Dragon's Rest.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll just kind of make her way over there, climbing through the rubble, get to about the approximate area of where Asmo's apartment was, and just kind of lay down in any floor space that still exists.
As you do so, you feel very subtle vibrations coming from the now Vorpal Blade and Tango Muerte. Kind of a subtle, just swooshing like feeling.
She'll hold them up next to each other, like laying on her back, looking at the open sky, and kind of both arms, both weapons next to each other.
You still feel them kind of like spiritually undulating, I guess would be the best words, in your hand.
You'll kind
Every
of
now and every
tap
now and
the
again you see
blades together against each other.
when you do that, you see a slight crackle form from the shattered hilt of the Vorpal blade. Like a crackle of this kind of violet energy.
If she focuses on it, does anything change or happen?
Give me a charisma check.
Where are you? Nat 20, 25.
Yo. As you kind of look inwards, kind of holding the blades, you can feel your shadow kind of like drift around you, drifting through your fingers and onto the blade itself, almost as if you're trying to sink your very essence into these blades that took so much from you. You feel like you're not alone, and not just in the way that your mother is somehow tied to your spirit, but that this blade itself, both of these blades, are trying to like reach back to you. You feel as though you could almost have like a very small conversation with it. Like you'll get feelings if you ask it something or if you talk to it, but it's not going to be able to speak to you like a person.
Huh.
Like the blade's reacting to your emotions and your thoughts.
Do I know you?
You get this feeling of it feels like a like kind of a granted confirmation, like, and of course you do.
Not my mom, though, right?
Sorry, what was that?
You're not my mom, though, right? Even though she's in there, probably.
You get a sensation back that it's as though there is a maternal relationship, but it is not by blood.
You Mother Death?
You feel a confirmation.
Why the fuck are you here?
You get this sensation that she's needed everywhere.
Right. Omnipotent.
To
Too
that
bad
you
couldn't
actually
keep your son in check.
To that you actually get kind of a negative when you say omnipotent.
What do you mean by that?
Once again, you feel that this force does not feel in control.
You don't feel in control?
You get a slightly timid confirmation.
Then what are you doing in my shit?
Give me another charisma check.
Another natural 25.
Jesus, yeah.
Across
Dude,
the board, both
Double nat
sides.
20s?
Double
What the
nat
hell?
20. So she better fucking answer me.
You feel as though it was almost trying to, like, leave this. You felt the blades try to, like, separate from you pulling it apart, but your shadow just kind of, like, knits it back together. Restate your question.
Okay. So why are you still around me?
You get this feeling. It kind of feels like an echo through your soul. This feeling of loneliness permeates you.
You're lonely?
You get the sense that that's not quite it.
What?
You cut out there a little, sorry.
Oh. What is it then? Hello?
I'm trying to figure out how the blade would convey this through empathy. It feels sorrow.
What do you have to be so sad about? Aren't you reunited with your precious son?
It feels your sorrow.
So, wait. You're not lonely. You're just echoing how I feel.
It responds in a way that the sorrow that you feel emanating from it is a bit of a reflection of your own. The isolation that you feel from it is something of a memory, one that it is able to empathize with your upbringing of being kind of the only child. In a very let's say, non-nurturing environment.
Oh, okay. So this is where you try and bond with me?
You feel like the blade is I guess guilty?
Guilty for Solomon? Since that is your doing on more than one level?
You sense a slight twinge of righteous indignation, followed by a wave of kind of like comprehension and understanding.
Yeah, I get it. You're gods. Can't pick how your kids come out with all that power coursing through you. But he was a monster. And I'm not really sure why you're still here, with me. Why are you still here with me?
You feel a sharp pain shoot up your arm. You feel a hollowness kind of permeate your gut. This feeling of anguish, sorrow, regret, and ultimate powerlessness.
You're this death god thing. How are you powerless? Or is that only about Solomon?
You feel as though something is out of your reach. Something that you can't grasp. Like everything you want is hanging right in front of you, but you can't grab it.
About the veil?
You feel a confirmation.
No shit. And again, why are you here? Can you just, like, not leave?
You get this sensation that they aren't there, per se.
Right. This is a piece of you, isn't it?
You feel the sharp pain in your arm again.
Can you not do that?
You feel sorry. You feel sorry.
So what now? I'm just aware that you're a shadow in my weapons, and I also get my mom, so I get Solomon's mom and my mom as my shadows. Is that what's happening here?
The shadows, the energy that you're using to bind this are all yours. This weapon is only able to commune with you through them.
I see. 'Cause, 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 So it's more like I have a direct link to death, to Mother Death, through my weapon.
Pretty much. Basically, the sensation you're getting is that this weapon is, or these weapons are basically Death's hand.
Great. So... This is the weapon I've used since I... As much as I want to throw you and never see you again, can't exactly do that. So what now? You're just gonna hang out there? Talk to me sometimes, kind of?
You get the feeling that that's up to you.
You gonna imbue my weapons with anything fancy, or are you just gonna kind of be there?
You feel like you'll know when you understand death.
Awesome.
And she just kind of flumps both arms down, stares at the sky.
It feels odd staring at such a peaceful sky, knowing what's happening in the world around you.
She's feeling very disconnected from all of that. Her expression will just kind of glaze over, and unless Death has anything else to say, she's just gonna zone out for a while.
Death seems quite keen to leave you to your faculties.
Makes sense.
All right.
Oh, before you shift.
Before I shift.
Before you shift. She'll turn and look at Tango.
And if you do see Solomon in your realm, since pretty positive he's there now, tell him he's a dick.
Back to glazing over.
Takes about 2 days for Elliot to fully recover, or recover enough to walk. But is there anything that any of you would do in that time in the town, whether it comes to visiting with anybody, intel gathering, or just trying to resupply on anything?
Nara's not gonna move from that spot for a very long time.
Nara seems to have gone missing the first day.
Daenerys would have spent, the first thing that he would have done probably is he would have dropped off the Umber Hulk eye sac, as well as he could have preserved it with Timry to see what Timry can do with it.
All right. As you make it to... Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, Lenny.
I was going to say you make it to Timry's workshop. As you walk in, word has spread that you guys had made it back. And he notices you as you come. Well, actually, no, he doesn't notice you as you come in. He seems very focused on writing some stuff on some parchment. See here. And then if I... Yes.
You seem focused.
He looks up. Oh. Good timing. He starts to kind of like roll up this. As you get closer, you notice that they appear to be blueprints. I was wondering if you could do a favor for me.
After everything you and Talos have done for me? Hell yeah, what you need?
You're planning on heading back in time, right?
That's the idea if it works.
Well, he kind of like folds the paper and hands it to you. Would you mind giving that to me in the past? It was something I was working on for a very long time, and it's some time that I'd like to have back.
Of course. Be more than happy to do it for you. If you don't mind me asking, what project is this one?
It was one that I bumped my head on for a few too many sleepless nights. The boy's bike, actually.
I was hoping that we could pick up the schematics from that from you.
Well, you got 'em, so don't lose 'em.
Oh, of course not. I want to let you know that the bike did him a lot of good where he was. It let him get a ways away from the blast very quickly.
He kind of, on one hand, he seems very thankful that it did that, and then he pauses for a moment. Did it break?
Yeah. I think when the blast caught him, it didn't survive it. We were able to get him back, but not the bike.
So the bomb worked then. Probably a little too well.
Like this. Minor illusions, what they saw down, the flashes, any minor illusions, the damage to Meteornocht when they flew over it.
Meteornocht was almost completely vaporized. Like there were a couple of chunks of crystal on the ground, but one of the thing kind of flickering through the air, which was kind of lucky that this thing was in the air, or more damage would have been done to the land. But yeah, there's a sizable burning crater. There is just kind of like luminous glitter hailing down from the sky, and just burn in death for almost as far as the eye could see.
And that is what he will show Timmery. Oh yeah, it worked. It brought the city down.
And a lot else, if... Oh, God.
Were you also behind the... whatever it was that Kinch used on the tower that put a hole in the sun?
No, that's not mine. Some demented imp did that.
No, I mean the thing that Kinch used to destroy it.
Oh. Well, a little here and there. That was much smaller scale.
Any chance... And he's going to put down the eye sac. Any chance that you could whip something like that up for me? Where if we're going back, that's the first thing that I want to take down, so that, stop a hole in the sun.
Take me a couple of days, but I could probably whip something up for you. It's as long as we got the materials.
Much appreciated.
It, too, wasn't without its collateral, if I'm gonna warn you.
What happened?
You blow up something that powerful. It's kind of hard to get away, you know?
Yeah. I can imagine.
And I'm not sure what happened to all the energy that was trapped inside that rock.
That's my last resort. I want to try to release what's inside of it. And if I can't, you know, better a crater where the tower was than a hole in the sun, you know?
Right.
Daenerys almost saying that his heart sinks a little knowing what's inside of that crystal. But he shakes his head a little bit and he keeps telling himself that it has to be done, otherwise it's going to get a whole lot worse. But he makes himself focus on Timry. But I found this underground. Big nasty bastard. Apparently if it looks at you, it can do all kinds of crazy things to you. I figured of anybody that might be able to do something with it, it'd be you. And he shows the eye sac.
That was more Talos' field, but I appreciate it.
Nier gives a little bit of a nod. I appreciate everything that you're doing, Timry. I really do.
Just doing what I can, an old gnome at the end of the world, I suppose.
Hopefully we'll be able to fix it all for you.
I hope so, too.
And Daenerys would give a half-hearted smile, even though behind the mask it doesn't show, but thank you again, Talos. And with that, Daenerys gonna kind of wander off, and he's gonna make sure that the schematics are safely hidden inside of his bag.
Timry looks up at an old picture of Talos and just nods. He was a good man.
He was a great man. You know, as Daenerys starting to walk out, and he stops. You know that book that he lent me a long time ago?
No.
Daenerys digs into his pouch and he shows an old divination book. Talos lent me this a while back.
Oh.
It helped me save Elliot a couple days ago.
You can see a tear start to well up in the gnome's eye.
He's not forgotten. In no way, shape, or form, Talos. I'm going to retcon that for myself because that was
right.
Bob mistaking. He's gone, but not forgotten, Timry.
May that forever be the case. Kind of wipes the tear from his eye and picks up a glass that he was sipping out of before he handed you that schematic. Just downs the rest of what was in the glass.
And Daenerys disappears. The next couple days, he's mostly just going to spend at the academy for the most part, just making sure that everything's okay, getting to know Abigail again. But one night, he casts Dream, and he's going to visit.
We're moving a bit far ahead here.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good. Wolfgang, basically the same day that Daenerys would have been doing this at Timry's, you're kind of able to get up and about while Elliot is being chastised by his wife. as he has regained consciousness but still lacks mobility. He has nowhere to go but to receive the proper amount of what the fuck were you doing?
Wolfgang will just like wince a couple of times with feeling the empathy. He'd probably be spending a couple of days trying to recover himself. And over that time, the amber color would begin to return to his eyes.
You still note that anytime you try to do anything that's involves drawing on your powers, specifically like the day you like the morning you wake up, I actually want you to make me a charisma check.
Oh, all right, my fucking freaking ability that gives temporary hit points.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Charisma check, you said?
Yes.
22.
Goes off like normal. Feels a bit like oomphy. Like you kind of feel that surge of power coming through you. Almost as if it's like unabated, but it goes off normally.
Okay. Getting the hang of it, at least. Feels familiar.
And after you wake up, shortly after, Venariel would be kind of like walking back in with like some fresh water. You feeling better today?
Yes, a little. I'm feeling a bit more like myself.
Elliot kind of starts to sit up too. He felt your powers go off. I'm assuming he also gets the temporary hit points.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a bit better today myself. Maybe I'll try. No, you stay there. Okay. As she kind of like just shoves his chest back down. Ow! Venariel will hand you kind of like a glass of water, Wolfgang, and then sit down and start administering some to him as she starts kind of changing his bandages up.
And people call me an angel.
As the bandages kind of get peeled away, the bandages that she's replacing, you can see the flesh still seems very raw, but there's none of that necrosis and grossness that was there previously. His body has done a pretty good job of just knitting itself up, but it's still a fresh wound.
I'll have to bear with it. When it comes to those big, nasty wounds, it's better to be clean than comfortable.
Yep. He says as he's like kind of like wincing as the bandages are getting peeled away. Can't disagree.
I can tell you're on the cusp.
Venariel kind of turns. Oh, and the king and the archmage are looking for you and your friends.
It's gonna make a really bad joke.
You are more than welcome to.
I'm sure that's all the Archmage can do right now.
She actually lets out a little bit of a scoff. Elliot kind of like cracks a smile. It hurts to laugh.
Sorry. Sorry, I shouldn't. Don't tell him I said that. But I will... Me specifically, or should I gather the others?
He was looking for you and your companions, but...
All right.
You're the first one I saw.
I think I'm feeling well enough to go at least walking around. I can't sit here cooped up all week. Besides, someone's got to go track down Nara.
Venariel kind of like just kind of stops peeling off one of like kind of rolling off one of the bandages. She seemed more distant than usual.
Yeah. I've been there before. I'll go find her.
Give her my best.
I will.
To wander out to kind of like the wincing sounds of your son as his bandages are getting changed.
I'll probably go and like grab a cane or something just to help me along.
Pogan would actually offer you one on your way out.
Need one of these, boss?
I have never felt older.
Well, still look a damn mite younger than me.
That's for sure, Master Pogan, but it feels weird. Like the weight of everything I've done is just all crashing down on me all at once.
That's why they make us dwarves so stout. We can bear that weight with our frame. For a time, anyway.
Well, if only creation had deigned to make me a dwarf.
There's always the next life. You got an in with the man upstairs, you can just ask.
When I die, I'm taking a break.
Have one for me.
Will do. Hey, you haven't seen a drow around here, have you?
I heard she was hanging out in the town square last night, but nobody really goes out there very often. Not anymore.
He pauses for a moment and like licks his teeth underneath his lips. I think I've got an idea. All right, thanks. I'm gonna go track down Denier and gather the others. And I'll go walking. And I'll just walk into town square and look around to see if I see any signs of recent movement.
As you get closer to the meat house and Phoenix Perch, you notice there are a lot of deep slash marks in stone, in wood, in everything. And as you get closer to Phoenix Perch, things are more marked. And as you go to the core of where all these marks are, it's the remains of Asmo's apartment, where the Vorpal's sword hilt is kind of sticking in a beam, and Tango Muerte is under a rock. And Nara is laying on her side, staring at a wall.
So there's Nara.
Nara.
What do you want?
He'll sort of hobble along with his cane, just looking at the carnage around him.
The the Archmage and Bahum would like to see us all. Figured I'd come and gather you.
Am I gonna have to kill one of you this time?
He'll get closer and he'll sort of just slide down the cane until he's sort of sitting cross-legged in front of Nara.
No. Nara.
Turns around really quickly.
How do you know? Huh? I barely know any of these people. I spent my whole life with Solomon. My new life was with Asmo. Now they're both gone. These new people gonna take you two away too?
No. Nara.
Okay.
No one's gonna take us away. And I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but I know what you're feeling right now. My wife, she died when Elliot was born. Initially, I blamed myself. I was angry, started lashing out, started shutting myself away. Felt like nothing mattered. I think back then, back when the king initially found me and asked me and Daenerys and Asmo to go on that mission, I think I was ready to just let whatever happened to me happen. But I also learned that there is still so much to live for, even though it feels like someone's grabbing your heart and trying to yank it out. And I know you love Asmo. I don't say loved, because we can still get him. And your life isn't over. And your love will never be over.
Just it, Wolfgang. I don't know if I can go back.
You can. And you will. Because Asmo loves you too. And he'll understand. And when we go back, and if you don't, well, he might feel like how you're feeling right now.
Can I even look at him, though? Wolfgang, what would you do if you were the one that drove the knife into a KZ? Even if you got her back, could you even look her in the eyes again?
He sort of looks to the floor briefly. I might as well have. But when I think about seeing her again someday, when my time is up, it may not feel like it right now, but I think love is the only thing I would feel. I know it must be quite difficult for you in your position, but I also know you're strong, Nara.
I never wanted to be strong, Wolfgang.
I know. Suppose I can relate to that too. Point is, you have to keep pushing forward. It's what they'd want. It's what he'd want. It's what she would want. And I'm not wrong yet. We'll get to that happy ending. I'm not gonna let whatever the universe throws at us make a liar out of me. And we'll do it together. I'll slowly, shakily stand back up with my cane, and I'll lean forward and reach out a hand.
Nara will look at his hand for a long time.
I'm still gonna need to think about it, but I guess I can't stay here forever.
She looks around the rubble.
Of course. We need to go back to get you some char meat as well.
Right. I forgot about food.
That'll make you feel better too.
While.
She'll take his hand and is kind of weak to get up, considering she's expended a lot of energy with her anger and has not eaten or slept really for the last 2 days.
He'll slowly pull her up to her feet, and if she'll allow it, he'll reel her in to give her sort of a half hug.
She'll kind of straighten a little, and then soften and kind of drape into the hug.
We're gonna be okay, you and I. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but we'll be okay. Now come on. I gotta go find our resident catman.
She'll pick up Tango and the hilt of Vorpal, and as Wolfgang starts walking out, she'll kind of stop for a minute till he turns around to look at her.
You sure he don't hate me, Wolfgang?
'Cause if you're wrong, nothing would be more cruel to make me live through it all again.
You test my patience sometimes, but no, I don't hate you. And I wouldn't lie about something like this. And I wouldn't want to live through something like that either. That's why he sort of points to his temple a few times. That's why I'm thinking of a plan.
And she
Might need some help with it.
Her eyebrows, like, she makes the face. And says, I hate it when you have plans.
Sometimes we gotta write our own happy endings, Nora. And he'll beckon her to follow him.
And she will.
And as you guys wander off to find Denier to go see what the king and the archmage are up to, here is where we will take a break. Hey guys, Lani here. I just wanted to thank you for rolling with us. And if you wanted to catch us live, you can do so almost every Monday at 5 o'clock Central Time over on twitch.tv/Lanipator. Now, back to the show. Denier, you also received kind of like the same summons, but you guys find your way to the Kylum Diaboli compound, which makes up a majority of the living space at the moment. And in one of the kind of like faculty meeting rooms, you find King Bahum standing next to a... I mean, I guess it's just basically a head in a Futurama jar of the Archmage. As they are looking over the old Whistlestein spell book and conversing, they get their eyes up towards you as you enter. The king kind of stands in recognition of you, and the Archmage's head just sort of shifts slightly in the jar.
You made it. Good.
I
suppose we wanted to take some time to properly figure out our next steps. Your son obviously will be necessary for the full plan, but... well,
He's recovering well.
I'm very glad of this.
The Archmage kind of chimes up as well.
Yes, I'm very grateful for your child, for liberating me from my imprisonment. His courage is... well, it's unlike any I've seen before. I'm glad to hear that he shall recover.
He just bows his head and smiles.
The spellbook has magics that I've never even assumed to cast. This spell in particular is of great power.
And he just kind of like motions towards the page in the book, a familiar page to two of you, as this was the page that Loxley had been contracted to copy.
There are a great number of things that we could do with this power. Our initial thought is that we should reignite the sun and give ourselves more of a chance on the field, but I wanted to pick your brains. As to other potentials, you often see what I do not.
And for those unprivy of this very long while ago, the spell in question is Wish.
Daenerys would know more about all of this than I would. He is the most learned and studied out of the three of us. Daenerys, do you have any thoughts?
Lenny, how much in my studies do I know of the mechanics of the Wish spell?
This particular spell, go ahead and give me an Arcana check.
Okie doke. 17.
It's a spell that you know, like, conceptually exists. It's not something that you asked about a lot while you were studying up north because, well, you thought that it would very much be a secret of the Wizelstein household. But while you were studying down here, trying to figure out the vastness of it, at the very least you know that it has the ability to replicate the abilities of any spell that you know and has greater functionality even beyond that. When Bahum said that they could use this to restore the sun, he's probably not lying.
Specifically what I'm referring to, does Daenerys know about the chance to burn yourself out and never be able to cast it again?
No.
Okay.
He does not know that there is such a cost to such a spell.
All right.
But you're also guessing that if something like that is a possibility, that somebody like the Archmage, who is essentially a wellspring of mana, would probably have the best chance of doing something with it.
Right.
Nick,
Yeah.
with being able to communicate with Mother Death through the blades, over those 2 days, would Nara have figured out that she can speak telepathically? Or is it only when she speaks out loud?
After that initial conversation you had, Death kind of like removed itself from the conversation for a while. Any attempts to make communication, it seems to be all based on emotion. You feel something, it feels something back.
How do you mean?
Essentially, you're not able to have like a direct verbal conversation, but your feelings in terms of how you are trying to communicate with it are parsed through. So your intentions are gleaned, but you're having a hard time. But yeah, it does not communicate back the same way.
But it would be like it did when we were talking, quote unquote, talking before.
Essentially, yeah.
So if she had an emotional question in her mind, it could answer?
So long as you are able to open yourself up to the blade, yes. And the connections there within.
Got it. Okay.
Daenerys looks everybody over one by one. I could think of potentially a number of uses that a spell of such capability might be able to benefit us. It could be used to replicate any spell that we possibly know. It could be, one thing that we could do with it is to give the Archmage a body back, so that he's probably one of the most potent spellcasters on the planet. To have him at 100% would be a great boon for this coming battle. we could potentially use the spell as a backup in case our primary plans of going back to stop all this from happening happens. I've personally been looking across the realm of dreams for 3 potential beings that could point us in the right direction, but so far I've found nothing. I don't think that they're exploring the realm of dreams, but we could try to bring back one key person that may be invaluable to our fight. We could try to reverse one potential apocalyptic thing that changed the entire way that the world works. But this is reality bending magic, and there's no telling what kind of a cost is going to come at casting this spell.
Wait. You could bring someone back with this?
Purely speculative.
The Archmage chimes in.
If it would seem that everything that you have described is possible, and yes, it is unclear what costs this would have. Its phrasing is very vague on the sort, as there are no particular components needed for it.
What does it need?
Simply for one who understands it to properly cite the verses and bring forth whatever magic the user deems. In this case,
He kind of looks around the room.
I'm guessing that's meant to be me.
Like I said, you're one of the strongest spellcasters on the planet.
I don't think there's anyone here that could cast it besides you.
Then the cost would be mine to bear. It's the least I can do, I suppose.
Nara's eyes dart to the book. The page.
You don't know how to make
verse?
you don't know how to make heads or tails of what's written on this.
Okay.
The thing that we need to do, Daenerys looks over towards Wolfgang and Nora. If Epombus is still around, we need to find him. From what I understand, the Great Sage in the swamps is the best lead that we have right now to find Epombus. The Wandering Weasel has been shut down for who knows how long. He's not in the realm of dreams. Him, Lush, or Pip aren't there. So it's either we use this wish to try to benefit this world, or we try to find Epombus, and if we can't, we use the wish as a backup to send us back in time to all this before it all started and try to stop this from happening. I've already got Timry working on an explosive that will help us take down the cannon that put a hole in the sun to begin with. Venario is working on listing every single thing that has happened and caused and affected up to this point. So if we go back in time with the explosive, with the notes, we could potentially stop all this from happening.
Right.
But, and we're talking hypotheticals here, we don't know what's going to happen to this world whenever we do it.
I suppose a few things could happen. Things could carry on as they are, or everything would cease to exist.
Or things would convert and change to match what happened in the past.
But that would mean that this never happened. a paradoxical theory.
It's impossible to know for sure. As far as we're aware, this is the first time in the history of the world that anything like this has ever been attempted.
Desperate times.
The king says.
So what would you do? Would you go seek the sage's advice? And have us wait?
It depends on what Elliot has to say.
Of course.
If the demons are in enough of a shape for a retaliatory strike, we might not have time to go seek a sage.
Everybody that I've had scrying the area. There's been no movement from the rubble. What demons still patrol northward? They seem disorganized. Their leadership is either non-existent or in shambles at the moment, from what we gather.
Elliot did mention something that was curious.
What
He
was
said
that?
he said the demons were arguing about which voice to listen to.
As in, who was in charge?
Possibly. He couldn't give me many more details than that just yet, but... I have my theories.
I would love to hear them.
As far as we're aware, the bleeding god, the entity that has been warping sorcerers in their nightmares, is the same entity or has the same consciousness as Ramses Palto, if my memory is correct.
The Archmage looks kind of shocked at that. He's
The usurper still holds sway. Where is he? I'll end him myself this time.
That's the thing. He's in a place that we can't reach, even in our time. He's in... what would you even call it? Some dimension between dimensions. In a time, in a space with no rhyme or reason. A place I personally don't think we even can get to again.
Arcanos, I spoke to Arcanos recently. He gave me some idea about how to get into it. And Denier will relay the information that he picked up from Arcanos about how to basically re-trigger what happened in the mists to rip open a Terran reality back to the realm that all time exists.
Tearing a hole between the planes. That's absolute madness. You could destroy everything like that.
That's how he got there to begin with.
Yeah, and yet it happened once.
Well, if Arcanos is still out there somewhere, maybe he can Maybe he can get you there. I don't know. These are all beyond my knowledge.
The Battle of Lona Throne took a heavy toll on Arcanos. Arcanos, as you know him, is gone, but he exists in another form. He's who we're trying to get to.
And that's why you need the sage.
The sage would know where he is. It was after the battle we were thrown into a place I can only describe as the Far Realms. A place where time doesn't exist at all. That's why we disappeared for so long.
As far as any of us are aware, the being that Arcanos has become is the only one with any experience on time and space and reality warping magics. If we can find him, we very well might have a way back home.
Then if I were to be so bold, that should be your priority.
And save the wish as a backup in case we can't find him. That way, at the very least, there's still a chance for some good to be brought to your world.
Yes. We can hold on this for a time. Seems the demons, even if they intend to regroup, haven't managed to do so yet.
And it seems there may very well be a civil, not war, but a power struggle, I guess you could call it.
So between the cataclysmic explosion, the loss of their home, and their divide in leadership, I'm not sure how much time that will buy, but let's hope it's enough.
Do we know these demons? Do we know if they served Palto at any point? Or if they came around afterwards?
I spent much of my time in my stasis conscious of the things around me. He would taunt me from time to time, as would his children. They're all born of the same filth that he was born of, but made even more horrifying by those gems. He unleashed the horrible energy they had within them.
I know who the two voices are.
Yes, you're thinking what I'm thinking.
The two voices are Palto and Asmodeus.
Mm-hmm.
They're both fighting for control over them.
Bahum actually kind of takes him, like, kind of like is taken aback by the mention of the other name.
My father. That name was one of the last things he said. Before he went into his slumber.
What did he speak when he mentioned that name?
It was all he said was Asmodeus. As if they were the last phrases he could utter before he lost consciousness. It was after he and your ancestor returned from that battle. I never got to see what it was they fought.
The demon's true name.
It was described as a crystal being.
And that falls in line with what we know.
If these demons had shards of the crystal, then that means after we killed the jester, he could have easily jumped these demons, which may explain why the tree was empty when we got there.
You think they moved him at his request?
That's what it seems like.
If this force is still in play, I suppose they'd still be battling over who's ruling.
As far as I'm aware, the two hate each other.
Well, then let's hope this leaves the window of opportunity open for us.
Yeah.
This. Go ahead. Just mumbling to myself.
Yeah. Archmage Blackwart, you said that you were conscious the entire time you were kept prisoner, yes?
I was conscious for a great deal of things, yes.
Say, hypothetically, we go back in time. Do you have anything that I could say, tell your previous self, so that I could potentially scry on you and gain intelligence on these demons before we face them ourselves?
You wish to scry on my body?
If you are conscious the entire time, and I speak to you and you will it, it could be a potential way that I could get eyes in the palace and gain intelligence on these creatures as they're taunting you. Or
I'd be
potentially
very
open
careful of
communication
that.
to you.
One of them had the penchant for jumping into my mind. They could never manipulate me, but I feel as though they know what I know.
I see. Then I would have to attempt it the hard way, so that you would remain unknown of the situation.
I suppose you would. But to that end, if you wish, you may take a piece of me to do so. It would make it a bit easier.
You have my thanks.
I only need one ear.
A single lock of hair may do just as well.
Dude's like mostly skull.
Ah, I got you. Then he would accept the offer for when they get ready. Any additional information you may have on these demons would also be greatly appreciated if we encounter them.
Well, there are many underlings, but of their command, one has the ability to manipulate metal. One seems to focus around barriers. Tall and powerful, though, he's physically not exactly an easy target either, despite his abilities. There's the young girl that likes to pry and mess with others' brains. She may be the most dangerous of all. At least for your and my kind.
She looks at you, Denier.
Denier reaches forward and taps the beak on his face. I've had my fair share of foes that attempt to warp the mind. Hopefully, this will give me some resistance.
There's a small impish one that seemed to be able to conjure creatures out of the air. Sometimes out of the walls themselves. All manner of beasts.
That lines up with what we saw at the site. It looks like the tree was chewed from within. Almost like something was conjured from within it.
Another large one, this one a bit stockier, has the ability to shift its shape, and any time it was near, I felt a radiating heat. It seemed quite surly and battle-ready. And then there was the stick bug. It would exude gases and various putrid slimes. I think they were forms of disease and contagions. And of course there was Palto. Until there wasn't. Suppose that was the Lona Throned incident. I always wondered what happened to him.
He attempted to siege Lona Throned in order to get to the physical body that Asmodeus was taking. We managed to hold him long enough for Arcanos' grand trap to trigger. Unfortunately, all that we did was give him everything he needed to set the pieces in place.
All the more reason for you to hurry to kill him. When you do so, give him my regards, would you?
And not only that, but he's keeping hostage a dear friend of ours.
That's in your time, I imagine.
Right.
But we know where he's going to be. And we have a way to track him.
Well then. Barring any additional information from your son, the course seems quite clear to me.
We're to seek the sage, find Arcanos, and with any luck, he can get us back to our original time.
And without luck, we have this.
And he gestures down back towards the book as best he can with only face muscles.
The wart moves.
It is a disgusting thing to behold. Just a big black wart on his inner bottom lip.
Well, I suppose there's not much left to say without your son.
I want everybody to make me a perception check.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Wolfgang with advantage.
10.
14.
14.
Ah. Wolfgang and Nara, you kind of feel this sort of... There was a warmth to the air that seems to kind of dissipate. The The king actually seems to shift a little, feeling the same feeling that you both felt.
Huh.
Nara will... Is there a window in this room?
No, this is an interior room.
She'll walk out into the hallway and see if it feels any different.
Doesn't feel any different in the hallway, but you do hear kind of like the rattling of a couple of people outside in the courtyard. And as you look out the window in the hall, you see what the people are rattling about. Up at the tip of Platinum Peak, the plume of flame that Bahamut was spewing in order to keep a radiant light over the city, it's beginning to flicker and shrink.
We have a problem.
Hmm?
The flame from the top of Platinum Peak, it's going out.
Father?
And Bahum kind of like muscles his way out the door and into the window.
I will hobble with my cane.
Dinier's following.
Bahum actually doesn't waste much time. He kind of like leaps out the window, and before he hits the courtyard, before his body slams down, he goes boom, full big dragon, and starts flying up towards the peak.
Nara's gonna try and hop on his back before he goes?
Dexterity or acrobatics.
Nat 20, 22.
Oh my god!
You kind of get the sense of what he's trying to do as he like leaps out the like he goes to like full belly flop mode, and you just take a moment to think, oh, this looks kind of fun. You jump out, do kind of like a little backflip and land with your 2 feet on his back.
Oh, she'd be super serious. Like, she knows shit's going down, so she
Yeah.
just like fucking assassin runs out the window and leaps as soon as he leaps.
But yeah, you land on his back. He doesn't even seem to notice you as he transforms into the full-sized ancient gold dragon. You're able to kind of grab onto one of his scales, almost by instinct, as he starts to whoosh take off towards the mountain.
If Wolfgang's willing, I will grab him in Dimension Door.
She the second she's on his back, she realizes that she ran out without Lil Ass and looks at Denier and Wolfgang, and as she's flying off into the distance, it's like, Lil Ass!
Lil Ass has actually been taken care of by the people that handle animals.
That makes sense, because she did just disappear without him. Like...
Yeah, you would have dropped him off with some people in the Kylum that are good at dealing with exotic animals. They
great. Never mind.
are very confused at the ever-shifting Chronosaur, but they are able to feed it, and it does not see them as food yet, so that's fine.
Okay, great.
But you said you were going to Dimension Door?
Uh-huh. If he's too far out, I will straight up polymorph into a giant eagle, grab Wolfgang, and carry him along.
Well,
how
all
far
right,
is
here we go.
How far is Dimension Door? 150 feet?
500 feet.
Oh yeah,
500 feet,
you can get him well within range before he's way out there. If you started reacting as soon as Nara jumped out, you'd have been able to pop up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want both of you to make me either athletics or acrobatics checks to make sure that you grab a hold of something when you get on top of the quickly moving ancient dragon.
Well, here we go. 8.
9.
Ooh. Yeah, you both kind of go tumbling down the back of the dragon. You don't fall off, but Wolfgang, you lose your cane. And each of you take 7
sorry,
points of
Bogan.
7 points of bludgeoning damage as you kind of like kind of bounce off a bunch of his scales before you finally like get a hold of one.
Nara looks back and is just like, okay, and then looks forward.
Yeah, Bahoom is making a beeline for the top of the mountain, and he kind of like clambers down, claws his way up to the peak to where his father's flame is starting to dither, and starts to shrink back down, and you each kind of tumble off his back as he does so. He barely pays you any mind, just kind of like a small look over his shoulder, be like, oh fuck, there are people back there, and then just goes. The flame from here, the last time you were up here, Wolfgang, this flame shot 80, 90, maybe even 100 feet into the sky and looked like a massive torrent of fire. The flame now maybe spits 12, sometimes up to 20 feet. But it's diminishing noticeably.
Me and Elliot were up here recently.
The king is over by what remains of the husk of his father's body. He's just kind of like holding his hand to it.
Slowly begin to wander over. But not close enough as to we want to give Bahoom and his father some space as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Nara, this light, even though it's like not a massive torrent of fire like it was previously, it is still extremely bright. Like you cannot look even remotely in its direction.
She's gonna instead, she'll immediately flick on the shades, but we'll start searching around the room, just like being aware, since this light is a beacon and it going out is probably going to attract unwanted attention.
Trying to keep your eye out for danger. Yeah, you can give me a perception check.
29.
You do see some movement coming from down a path. A couple of forms running straight up towards the peak.
Someone's here. And she'll immediately take off after them.
They're running upwards towards you.
So
you're running down to them?
Sure.
Daenerys going with.
As you get within about 30 feet of them, they'll stop, and one of them will kind of like strike out with like a bow staff, striking a pose. A couple of them will strike some like martial arts stance. You can see this radiant flame kind of emanating off of their weapons and hands.
Nara will dead stop.
The fuck are you doing?
The one up front kind of shifts his stance a little, not like the kind of like setting his staff down on the ground. The white flame still sticks at the tips of it, but he walks forward, and you see this elderly monkey man. We were coming to check on the master. What are you doing up here? What have you done?
We came here with Bahoom. He's with his dad.
We're here to make sure that nobody wanting to take opportunity of the situation attacks Bahumet.
At ease, Wookiee.
He kind of strains his eyes to look at you, Wolfgang.
I didn't expect you to come back, little Elliot.
Kind of taps his staff twice, and the flames go out. Coming up for another lesson, eh?
You're gonna have to squint harder than that.
I can't squint much harder without closing my... You're not Elliot.
That I'm not. You remember me, don't you? Wolfgang Connolly?
Kind of crouches down, his tail kind of like flicks behind him as he scratches his chin. Ah, yes, you came and studied under Sheen for a little while. Well, met with him anyway. That was my master back in the day. He looks back to his students.
Well, now's not the time to be reminiscing. Bahamut is unwell.
He's been faltering for some time, I guess. I guess now is his final throes. He stands back up. You can see the silvery sheen of each of his hairs kind of glitter in the radiant lights of Bahamut.
Denier glances over at Nara. They mean no harm, and he steps aside.
And Wookie looks back to his students. You can stand down as well. Come along. And he starts walking with his staff upwards. They stand a reasonable distance away from Bahum and Bahamut. And under this light, while you're kind of closer to the radiant flame, you notice that the glistening silver hairs on Wookie are very similar to what Sheen did in that they use the platinum powder from Bahamut's scales to kind of coat their flesh, and in this case, his entire coat of fur is glistening with platinum silver. We've watched over him for generation after generation. No master wanted to be the last to do so, but I suppose it had to be someone's.
So there's nothing we can do.
There's been nothing that we could do for a long while. As soon as he spouted that flame, it was only a matter of time. At the rate this is going, there's maybe a matter of days, but it will happen. So it would seem even the gods would one day fall.
Well, the gods aren't all they cracked up to be anyway.
I suppose not.
So what happens when
Well,
Bahamut finally goes?
When his light stops radiating, it'll mean the demons can return. There'll be nothing stopping them but us and your son, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Got that one right. Could have gone with brother, but time and all that.
Huh. I was never so fortunate. But if that's the case, then looks like our plans have just shot up in schedule.
I guess. He says, kind of quizzically looking at you, scratching his chin, not really sure what your plans are.
He was more saying that to Nara and Denier.
Nara just like crosses her arm, cocks a hip.
This is what happens every time you make a plan. Like, every time.
Well, kind of hard to factor in something like this. And not every time.
Every. Wolfgang, I'm ready to fight you for this.
Later.
Bahum takes his hand off his father and begins marching towards you, Daenerys.
Daenerys glances over.
That spell. Would it restore him as well?
Depending on how you word it, maybe. I've never seen this spell used before. It's possible. But I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know if it's just old age or if it was previous battle wounds.
Being the only one in the party capable of even bringing someone back to life, would I know what sort of limitations come with resurrection magic?
You know that outside of divine intervention, such as through the actual power of something that would have the ability to pierce death's veil, it is incredibly, it is not impossible. If a soul remains on this plane, it can be tethered to something else via, reincarnation, like what T-Wig used. Or if their soul had not passed beyond the veil yet, using Revivify is something that you could do to kind of coax the soul back to its mortal tether. But true resurrection is something that is hitherto unheard of outside of the feats of Solomon. But if he has that power, then surely that power must exist somehow, right?
True.
The best example you have from personal experience is when you were attempting with all of your might to bring your son back. You could feel the veil crack as you tried to use every ounce of your force. If you had somehow been able to unleash just even I remember you rolled extremely high. You were close to a nat 20 on that. If you had nat 20, you would have been able to do it. But your body gave out before you were able to.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, it is possible to do. And as Bahamut is still in the process of dying, his soul is still part of this world. That said, it's very different in terms of trying to bring back somebody who still has a long life to live and somebody who has lived for thousands upon thousands of years. By your recollection, Bahamut was the first of the children of gods, of life, basically. The first of life's children to walk this planet. So he's been around for eons and eons.
Nara's gonna, hold Tango in front of her, and in her mind, emotions, think about would bringing him back or restoring him, through the veil, be a good idea? And then out loud she goes,
Yes or no?
Give me a charisma check. In the radiant light, this blade actually seems to tremble.
Interesting. Natural 20.
Oh my gosh!
Right.
Caitlin!
Holy
The
shit.
third natural 20 you've rolled to interact with this thing.
Nara is so done with all this shit that even roll 20 is intimidated right now.
It clearly is. Roll20 like really wants you to talk to death.
I'm telling you, darker, grittier roll 20. There's something to it.
There's power. There's power there. Yeah, in the presence of this radiant light, the blade seems to tremble. There's confusion and fear. You're feeling fear right now, but as you try to pry in and get your answer as to whether this would be a good idea, the sensation you get back is that of inevitability. Something that will and always would come to pass shall always come to pass.
What? You mean this stuff repeats itself?
What?
Hang on.
Sticks a finger up at Denier. Keeps looking at Tango. Has not told either of you about the conversations with Death yet, by the by.
Everybody's just staring at Nara.
What do you
Wookiee
mean,
Wookiee is
inevitability?
fascinated.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I was saying Wookiee is fascinated as to what do you mean by inevitability. The blade, and again, you kind of have to be holding both of them to get this sensation.
Yeah, well, one is like, she's got the Vorpal hilt. She's basically always been holding on to that since they left the apartment. But she's like holding Tango in front of her, as if that's like, in her mind, that's how it works, because she can at least see her reflection.
You get this sensation of exhaustion followed by a sensation of rest.
So, the gods get tired and have to rest and come back in a different form? Like reincarnation, kinda?
You get this sensation of... God, how the fuck do I explain this one? Through emotion.
Good luck.
Yeah. A sensation of deep slumber. Weightlessness. A sensation that feels like it could last forever. Almost like you haven't experienced anything even close to this sensation, but you almost feel nirvana for a moment.
Okay. And then they come back from that?
The only thing that kind of resounds through you is no.
So they just come and then they go.
Once again, you feel a sense of inevitability.
Same course as all living things, then. Like a thing that comes and goes, and that's how it works.
You feel a sense of renewal.
So I was right. But not exactly.
You feel confused. And I'm not sure if you actually feel confused, but if you do actually feel confused, then it is muddling with your own sense of confusion.
Okay, so it's not like the power comes and then just dissipates. It like comes, rests after it's exhausted itself, and then comes back in a different way. But the same. Like waking up.
You feel tacit confirmation.
Okay. See? I knew I wasn't crazy.
Can you ask it what's
She
for lunch tomorrow?
She says, talking to the sore.
Exactly.
Yeah, Wookie's just kind of sitting there scratching himself.
Can you ask it what's for lunch tomorrow?
No! Oh, sorry. Okay. So, what do we do about him then? If he's gonna go, how long are we gonna have to wait? Until we can get a new fire tower thing.
Are you still asking the blade?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It doesn't fucking know.
What the? Fine. Do you know anything about this wish spell thing? You're a god, you should know something.
Doesn't seem to. You feel curiosity.
We'll talk about it later.
It seems excited.
Ugh.
She like rolls her eyes and then puts her hand down, puts Tango down at her side again.
When you roll
Looks
your eyes,
around-
when you roll your eyes, it feels sad.
I'm not... Fine, we'll talk about it later, and... You know what? I'm still mad at you. Not you. Ugh, fuck! Whatever. I need time.
And she just puts it down.
Denier looks confused.
Yeah, slowly
Even-
looking over at Denier like, are you seeing this shit?
Even behind a mask, he looks confused. Like he is like a 90-degree head tilt.
The mask raises its eyebrow.
Wookie looks over to his staff. See, Master, I'm not the only one.
He takes a bit of chalk and he draws confused eyebrows on his mask, like T-Wig always did.
Nara just squints at Didier like,
Not funny.
Are we close to an answer on what were you?
she just deadpan stares at Wolfgang like, I have lived too long. I know too much.
All right. Okay, so does this mean we need to start preparing to set out immediately?
He looks back. King Bahoom looks over to Wookie.
Watch over him.
Always do.
And Bahoom once again starts shifting into his massive ancient dragon form.
We can discuss your preparations. But first, we need to hear from your son.
Right.
Hop on.
Denier climbs on to make sure he has a good seat this time.
Yeah, get a good grip on some scales.
Yeah, there aren't very many super comfortable places to sit, but as a massive ancient dragon, you can kind of stand between some of his back spikes and like hold on as he takes you back down. You fly back down towards Dragon's Rest as the sun begins to set. And here is where we will end tonight's session.